The Tyson's Gift podcast was created to promote the normalization of metaphysical and spiritual topics, particularly the reality that we are all eternal souls having an earthly experience. Obviously, this will cover a wide berth of topics such as animal communication, mediumship, the paranormal, past life regression, energy healing, you name it. Brandon hopes to entertain his audience with fascinating discussions with experts, as well as everyday folks who have metaphysical experiences and knowledge to share. The intention is to help make esoteric topics fun, relatable, and credible for audiences of all backgrounds. And here is your host of the Tyson's Gift podcast, Brandon Wainwright.
Hello, and welcome back to the Tyson's Gift podcast on WLTK-DB. I'm your host, Brandon Wainwright, and thank you for being here. So this week, so far my guest has not shown up. We've had a whole show lined up for you, and so far I think he's having some kind of technical difficulties or something. But in the meantime, I'm going to entertain you with my own stories and such. So we can't start though without our mascot making an appearance. So with that, let's have Pepper come on over here. Thank you. All right, here she is, Pepper T. This is my baby right here. And if you've read or listened to my book so far, you know very well who this is. So it's very appropriate that she's here with us. All right, baby. So I think she probably would prefer to go and hang out with her mom. So, and on that note, thank you for making an appearance. We love you. All right. Okay. So yeah, the guest that I had lined up for today is Mark Adams. He's an energy healer who has created his own technique, and really, it most likely it was channeled. He channeled it himself, and it's a pretty fascinating one. It involves the use of a pendulum. He did healings on both Pepper and me, and it yielded some really fascinating information that we were going to go over with you, and hopefully he'll show before too long. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and just talk about some of the things that happened with me in just the past week or so with the healings that I've been doing. So I mentioned last week that I learned a new technique called reflective etheric healing, and I also mentioned that I wasn't going to be actually offering it professionally for a period of time, because I want to develop my own confidence in the technique and make sure that it's worthy of actually offering it professionally. So, but I did work on somebody yesterday, a friend of mine who has multiple ailments, but he chose to work on his knee, the lateral portion of his left knee, and he's had pain there where it goes all the way down into his foot for quite some time, and it actually initially started in his low back, and then it went all the way down to his feet. And in compensating for what he was dealing with that with the sciatica, he ended up sorry about that. I've got two dogs right here that are playing. But being that it's a doggy show, I guess that's appropriate. Anyway, the sciatica, when he was dealing with the sciatica, he ended up overcompensating and causing some ligament issues and tendon issues in the left lateral portion of his knee. And so that was what we did the reflective etheric healing on, and we had some really great success with it yesterday. It immediately when we were done with the session, he had this all kinds of warmth going into the area, and he could feel things going on and adjusting, and the pain had gone away. He had dinner with me yesterday, and then today he reported this morning and then in the afternoon that he was feeling a lot like the pain hadn't returned. It still felt like brand new, and he could still feel more and more adjustment going on. So it's so far so good. I did, obviously I had done it before when I was training on it, but it's one of those things where it's such a remarkable modality that you want to make sure that it actually works. I did another technique with a family member, and it wasn't so successful. But right away, my family member told me that that he believed that he was too much in his own head and blocking the energy from coming through. So it was just an interesting illustration of what can happen with when you're healing. You're both the practitioner and the receiver are partners. They're working on the healing together, and ultimately the person receiving the healing is the one that actually is doing the healing. The practitioner is more of a facilitator and a channel for spirit to come through, but the healing cannot take place without the participation of the client. They have to be invested in it. And it's not one of those things where you have to be fully convinced that it works. But you have to believe that it's possible, and you have to want to heal. The energy that the frequency of your own energy needs to be in line with that spirit energy that's coming through to do the healing. And things like being, thinking, being skeptical in your mind as it's happening, overthinking it, things like that can cause a disruption and inhibit the healing from taking place. I want to give a shout out to Lana out in Plainfield, Illinois. Thanks for for tuning in to us tonight, Lana. I appreciate it. So anyway, that it was just a kind of an interesting illustration of that, where I had two people, right in the, older, both of them going for structural issues, not organ issues, but more structural issues in their joints. One of them having a very successful session, the other one not so much. But fortunately, that person is insightful enough to realize that they were probably blocking the energy. Another bit of healing that's been going on. I've got a client that I'm pretty excited about. So I'm not going to go into too much detail because I'm not really supposed to talk about things like that. But I have a client with arm issues, both arms, and where she had fallen on both shoulders, and she had this happened several years ago, and nothing has helped her. Physical therapy, chiropractic, you name it, nothing helped. And I was a little bit concerned about that I wasn't going to be a helper either, obviously. But ultimately, when it comes to spirit, the outcome isn't what's important. What's important is the spiritual growth, the spiritual light that comes into the client. And that's what this is really all about, because every time, a healing takes place. I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted right now. The guest is trying to get in touch with me. So I'm going to go to a break here in just a minute. But what I want to say is that even if the result of the healing isn't what you're hoping for, there's still spiritual light that's coming into the client and doing good work and making a difference, even if it doesn't manifest in the form that you originally hoped that it would. So that's something to keep in mind anytime you get a healing. Frankly, I find myself focused a lot of times on wanting to get the people results, but that's not always what it's about. It's about the spiritual growth that you can offer the people as they go through the healing, and show them, more importantly, that spirit really does heal, and that it is reality. Okay, I'm going to go to a break real quick, and we'll be right back with you.
Brandon Wainwright, author of Tyson's Gift, How an 8-Pound Canine Became a Man's Greatest Spiritual Guide, and owner of Tyson's Gift Healing Arts, offers Reiki as well as color and sound modalities to anyone seeking physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual healing. While color and sound healing, a technique that brings balance and health to one's chakras and body, must be provided in person. Reiki, a Japanese form of energy healing, can be given in person or equally effectively from a distance. For more information or to make an appointment for a session, please visit tysonsgifthealing.com. That's tysonsgifthealing.com.
This is WLTK-DB Talk Radio.
Come see our new station shop for some amazing top quality merchandise. There is something for everyone, like blankets, electronics, clothing, and much more. Head on over to WLTK-DB.com and click Shop to show your support by sporting our logo. The WLTK-DB Station Shop at WLTK-DB.com. Paranormal talk is our business, and business is good. Want to see your video here? Sponsor WLTK-DB Talk Radio and watch us make that happen. With your paid sponsorship of $80, you receive a professional produced audio, video, and banner placement on our station. Not only does your sponsorship air during our live shows, but also replayed on our podcast and heard by hundreds of like-minded people. Visit WLTKDB.com to get started and find out just how hard we work to get you noticed.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTKDB.com.
All right, we're back on the Tyson's Gift podcast. It was good. We got rid of the dogs because they were fighting and going nuts. So anyway, I want to go back to that idea that that healing isn't always necessarily about the outcome that you're expecting it to be, and it's been a hard thing for me to wrap my brain around because it's so easy to look at things from that left brain kind of Western medicine model of if it didn't make you better or it didn't manifest in the physical healings that you were hoping for, then it didn't do any good. But that's not true, and that's the whole point of the healing. It's not just the physical healing that takes place, but it's the spiritual awakening that I hope and I'm sure most energy healers hope to evoke in their clients. So anyway, going back to that particular client, her both arms just a mess, and nothing had helped her for 2 years. And we've got her. So the first, her right arm, basically, from what she's told me, I've had I think I've had 5 sessions with her at this point, 5 1.5 hour sessions, and her right arm, which was, she couldn't even lift her arms to put clothes in the closet or anything. And her right arm is she said, is back to normal. And her left arm, last I asked her, on a scale of 1 to 10, a pain scale, 10 being her really awful pain, the worst that it had been, at least with that arm, she said it was down to about a 3. And she has reported to me since then that it actually has improved some. So it's just really encouraging. It blows my mind how powerful spirit can be. And so the healing that I did that particular thing with, that particular healing with, was a spirit assisted healing technique. And that was done from a distance. Another illustration that distance healing is every bit as effective as in-person healing. But what that involves is I have a team of spirit doctors, healers that are actually no longer in this physical plane. They're in the astral plane. But I have a surgeon, I have a nurse, I have a master teacher, and then I have who I believe she's a veterinarian, but I'm not 100% sure. I saw what she looks like. But I haven't actually, the other two, the surgeon and the nurse actually were wearing uniforms. So it was very clear what they were, but that the fourth person, not so sure. But I channel them, and they are the ones that actually do the healing. I feel the energy coming through my hands, and I send them in there, and I request them, and so we're a team. I'm just part of a team that's working it to help the client. And so in this particular case, that it was very effective, and it's been really cool to watch. Now the other the reflective etheric healing, that's the one where you actually implant a replacement body part into the etheric body, and then move that through the different levels of the etheric body and into the physical body. And it's, all I can tell you is, I'm sure if for somebody that hasn't been introduced to these sorts of things, that this sounds probably pretty out there, pretty out in left field, and I don't blame you for being skeptical, but I will tell you that it works for somebody that can. There's people lots of people actually that can see the etheric body just by looking at somebody. I unfortunately am not one of those people, at least not yet. I have to really concentrate and focus before I can see it. But there are people that can just glance at somebody and see their etheric body. But I can feel it, and especially during the reflective etheric process, it involves physically blowing the etheric body up to about a foot off the. Normally it's an inch or two, maybe, but during this process, you actually blow it up to about 12 inches off the body, and all I can tell you is it's very tangible when you're working in it. It's really cool, really, really cool. And I just wanted to share that. I'm hoping that our Mark is going to be here pretty soon. He unfortunately he got his times mixed up. He was thinking that Central Time was 2 hours behind Eastern, so he thought it was going to be 8 p.m. instead of 7 p.m. But he is actively getting dressed right now to be on the show. So I'll just, I kind of alluded to the idea that I sometimes can go into, I'm a connoisseur of toilet humor and that sort of thing. So I'll just share with you something that happened to me today that's completely not spiritually related. But I have a large lawn in my yard. I have a riding mower, and it takes, even on the riding mower, it takes an hour to mow it. And it's fall, so there's lots of leaves out there, and it's very dry. And I was just covered in dust today, and as I was out there working on the yard, and let's just say that I had lots of dusty boogers. And it's just one of those things that's annoying as can be, and gross, and that's what I went through today. So just to share the idea that just because you're doing spiritual things doesn't change the fact that you're just a regular Joe. On that note, I think I want to bring on my partner, my producer. I'm going to have him come in here for a couple minutes just to chat with us until Mark comes on. I think that'll be fun. So Todd, can you come on, or do you need to go to a break? And there he is.
We go.
Todd Bates himself. All right.
Thursday, huh?
So, yeah, happy Thursday. So Todd, I'll just, I think I talked about this a little bit last week, but the way this show came to be was that when I released Tyson's Gift. Oh, by the way, I got time. I should advertise my book, right?
Yeah.
Tysonsgift.com. Is the whole story of my beautiful dog Tyson and I, and then the subsequent spiritual awakening that his death caused in me, and then really in lots of people around me. It's a great story. He was a character. It's kind of Marley and Me-esque, and then it turns into sort of like a dog's purpose, only in real life. So I hope you'll check it out. Tysonsgift.com. If you'd like to check out my healing offerings, it's TysonsGiftHealing.com. So almost the same thing, just add healing on at the end. But while I was in I went on a lot of podcasts and radio shows in an effort to get the book out there, because my whole purpose, realistically, books are hard to make money on, as are podcasts, but that wasn't the purpose. The purpose here was to get this book out there to as many people as possible to hopefully give them peace. And that was the whole point of the book, and that's really the whole point of this podcast. And so in that process, I did an interview with Nicole Strickland on the Afterlife Chronicles, and she's a fellow WLTK-DB host, and then she co-hosts a show called Haunted Voices with Todd, and Todd also happens to be the founder and owner of WLTK-DB, the radio station. So had such a good time working on those two shows with both of them that when I decided that it was probably a good idea for me to start a podcast, because it's just yet another avenue to get the word out there. They were the first people I thought of to get some advice from, secretly hoping that maybe they might ask me to join their station, even though it sounded kind of outlandish at the time. But no, that's exactly what happened. And Todd has been very patient in the process of getting this show on the air. And there was another show that we had all ready to go, and then that ended up falling through. So we're doing this instead. But Todd, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me for a second here, Brandon. Your guest arrived backstage. Looks like there may be some camera issues. It's one of those technical difficulty days.
Got it. Okay. So see, I'm on, but my webcam won't start, he says. Well, let's see.
That's an issue. I'm not going to say StreamYard's been having a lot of them, but there have been a lot of tech issues going on as far as this is concerned, getting cameras to work, audio to work, things like that.
Yeah. It's because
I can sit here, I can see his webcam trying to connect, but it's okay if he's just audio as well.
Yeah. So I'm asking him he's going to do that. So real quick though, since we've got you on, might as well give you a quick shout out for your new book.
Thank you.
So Todd just wrote a book about his whole process of his own. It's an autobiographical book. I just started reading it. I'm going to have him on a dedicated show later, but it's about his process of life. And getting into paranormal research and all kinds of different cool stuff. And so it's called
The Haunted Voice.
The Haunted Voice. And what's the best place to find that?
You can find it right now, paperback. Amazon just released it. Just search The Haunted Voice, or you can find it on my website, toddmichaelbates.com.
Well, you could get both. You can get Tyson's Gift and The Haunted Voice. They're both right there.
You need it.
Okay. So I guess Mark's ready to roll.
Down there. He's got his cameras rolling, so everything's good. I'm out of here.
Okay, great. Sounds good.
I'll bring him up for you.
Okay. Hey, Mark.
Brandon.
Well, sorry. It's one of those things. The technical difficulty seems to be a common theme these days.
It definitely was a challenge. So are you getting echo with me again?
Yes.
A little bit.
Yep. Is there, do you want to keep going or?
Yeah. We'll just,
that's not too bad.
Is it better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, good.
Okay, great. So, Mark, I'm going to go ahead and read the bio that you gave to me just to give everybody a nice complete, understanding of who you are. Okay. Mark is a certified life coach and has been an energetic healer on many different levels for decades. He came to the practice of energy healing naturally and organically, beginning with daily meditation from the age of 7. Unusual to say the least. This understanding of healing energy frequencies at a young age evolved into a more scientific exploration of energy that included diving into ancient mythology, philosophy, metaphysics, and obscure esoteric mysteries. Today, Mark works as a remote energy healer with both pets and people. His technique involves the transference of the Earth's natural healing frequencies while in a state of lucid meditation. Mark can be found at healingswithmark.com. And that's you can find that on the description for the show on YouTube. But it's Healings with Mark, just the way it sounds. Mark with a K.com.
Yes, definitely. That's very important, as we know these days.
Okay, now we're really echoing. It's yeah. Okay. Why don't we go to a quick commercial break again and see if we can get this thing up on going the way it's supposed to.
How's this? This is better?
If you're a fan of the paranormal world, then you'll love WLTK-DB Talk Radio. Talk shows bringing you the latest on everything paranormal, cryptozoological, metaphysical, true crime, psychic readings, and more. The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.
All right, and we're back. Go check. How you sounding? It says I think it's okay. Mark, are you good?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's still echoing really bad.
All right, hold on for 1 second.
Okay. I think we're gonna take you out for a minute, and Todd's gonna come back on until the go ahead and text me when you're ready.
Okay, that works. All right.
All right. Hey.
Technical difficulty.
Yeah.
Sound.
Yeah. Well, do you want to talk a little bit about your book?
Sure, absolutely.
So it
Let's
all
see.
just kind of, I mean, I know you don't want to get into a lot of detail because you want people to actually be interested in reading it, but what's it about?
That's up to them. It's one hell of a ride. I'll say that. It's
Well, I've enjoyed it so far.
Thank you.
I've only gotten a couple chapters in, but
it was one of the most cleansing things I've ever done, writing that. And I cried writing that. It brought back so many memories. And it's something, writing it, I kept it from all my friends. I kept it from my family. It was something I took on myself.
So was there a reason that you decided to keep it as a secret? I was wondering because I know I had heard that, and I know for me when I wrote Tyson's Gift, every chapter I wrote, I immediately came down and read it to my wife. It was like, I was like, does this, I needed the validation that it was okay, So
Sherry had no clue.
What was it that
it was late night? There were late nights, I do late nights anyway, so there really wasn't any difference. It was just what I was doing. I was doing a lot of typing.
Yeah.
And it was one of those, if I talked to somebody about it and didn't do it, I'm afraid I wouldn't do it at all. I just had to do it and get that out, because to make some of those things I wrote about in the book public, that takes a lot. That takes a lot.
I understand.
Open up,
Yeah.
The way society judges people the way it is. But that's what the book is about, is my journey through the paranormal, rising up to it, what happened during it, the birth of a few things like my show, Haunted Voices, the radio station, WLTK-DB, all of these different projects and things. And it's about overcoming that.
Overcoming the challenge of the life challenges, or was it more about the challenges?
Overcoming those life challenges and not going how do I say that? Overcoming those challenges and not letting my past catch up with me and me repeating the process again.
I see. So
because it's a vicious cycle if you let it be a vicious cycle. So the book is about breaking some of that cycle. My father's cycle, my grandfather's cycle, things like that.
okay, so would you describe the book as more a personal journey of life's challenges more so than paranormal, or kind of
It's
like
a
like
mixture of both.
like
Believe
it's
it or not, it's got both in there. It's got
oh, I'm sure it does. I'm sure it's got
yeah,
all
it's
kinds of
juicy.
fascinating stuff in it. Yeah,
Got some juicy drama in there. Um, you
but
know, just things uh like in the past, me working corrections and then being on the other side of the bars. That's a whole chapter in itself, is being in both places, is having those kinds of problems in life and
yeah.
open about them.
Yeah, I
Those
had
are what
no
make
idea
you
you were a
human.
corrections officer. I had no
Mhm,
idea. Yeah,
mhm.
that's
All that's in there. No one had any idea these things. These are things I kept recessed in my head. They
sure.
were bad memories for me,
Yeah. Yeah,
and you'll see why when you read the book,
see, now
but
that I really commend you for being willing to share that stuff, because that's really vulnerable stuff where you're talking, you're admitting your weaknesses.
yeah.
Yeah, that's not easy at all.
Mhm.
That's so good on you.
Thank you.
That
It
that
it
takes that
it had to
takes a
be
lot.
done.
That takes a lot of strength. There's I know plenty of people that would never consider putting something like that out there because they don't, they don't want to be judged, like you said.
That's correct.
Yeah, but so what, obviously there, if you're at that point, um, you've got to have some motivation behind putting something like that out there. I mean, you could have just written this for yourself and
Mhm.
kept it in a box somewhere until, and with the sign that says "publish upon death" or something. You know, what what made you decide to put it out there and for the
My
world to
my
see?
my grandson made me do that at his little newborn age because
Hmm,
those things are gonna surface, and I can't think of any other way to tell him
that's
about those things than to
that,
have him, one
that's a
day
great
here, read
reason.
this and understand what happened.
That's
Because it's known around here where he's gonna hear about a few things and things like that. Um, and this is a good way to tell him. I couldn't think of any other way to tell him, one day, or my family really, for a lot of these things that are in there. They didn't know them either. A lot of
yeah.
things surfaced in it. It was just
Probably things that you had put out of your mind, huh?
what's that?
Probably a lot of things that you weren't necessarily thinking about.
I I forgot so much.
Uh,
So much.
that's very cool. So that's I can't think of a better reason than for posterity, for family and loved ones to have a full understanding. You know, long after you're gone, your grandson will still be able to read that, and it'll be as if you're sitting there with him telling him the story. Well, you will be
Mhm,
actually telling the story right there. But it also has the added benefit of really helping other people though too, because I mean, let's face it, nobody, I mean, myself included, is perfect. Nobody has
mhm,
gone through their life without making some big mistakes,
mhm.
and for especially for people that haven't, why haven't you? You know what I mean? I mean, have you really learned? Have you really come here to to grow, or have you come here to sit in a box the whole time? Well, and maybe there's a lesson in that, right, in that of itself, right?
Bingo.
but but I think it's very commendable that you know that you would write something like that for other people to benefit from. So I'm reading it right now. I've been reading it when I go to sleep at night, but we're not supposed to have our interview until late December, so I had plenty of time, right? But it is very candid and straight, and it's like talking to you, so
Yeah,
I recommend it to people.
good.
um so yeah, I mean, with Tyson's Gift, it was a similar situation where I didn't, it doesn't make me, it, I'm not really admitting to too many weaknesses in it. That's more of an uplifting story, but even there, letting out just the vulnerability and non-stereotypical machismo, of a guy, admitting that your heart was flailed out, flayed out for the world to,
It's
to
tough.
see. Yeah, I mean, but when you have over a higher purpose behind the work, when there, it's not just a sharing, it's not just a, hey, look at me type of thing. When you're
Right.
actually putting it out there because you want people to benefit from it and learn from it, it's amazing how that those vulnerabilities and the feeling of being vulnerable, you know kind of at the mercy of other humans, which is not a place that, especially in today's world, that you want to be, right?
Absolutely.
But it's funny how that courage comes, though, where you just kind of, whatever, this is more important, and you just put it out of your mind.
Yeah.
So I would say that you are a teacher warrior, based on that, based on what you've put out there. But I can't wait to get into the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah, it
So
has its moments. It's a good read. It's got some paranormal in there. It's got some great ghost stories in there. Some exciting.
speaking of which, I haven't gotten in too deep, yet, but what would you say made you want to? I mean, what made you want to research paranormal stuff? Because, like, just speaking for myself, I've always been aware of paranormal things happening. I didn't necessarily have a definition to put on it. I didn't have the spiritual um, paradigm that
Right.
I look at things through now, but I knew there was stuff, you know, but I never was wanting to delve in and dig deeper, though. I never felt motivated to do that. What
I
is it?
didn't at first either. Yeah, I was completely skeptical. Um, my goodness, the only thing that I had an inkling of belief in was there may be existence elsewhere. As far as ghosts and things of that nature, nah, I didn't buy it. I went on
Mhm.
a ghost tour.
So when you say existence elsewhere, you mean extraterrestrials?
Mhm.
Okay, but as far as other humans that have crossed over and are still in contact, you didn't buy that stuff.
No, I was raised Catholic. I was taught not to buy that kind of stuff, and if I was, to get a priest and chug some holy water. That's what it was about.
Shot
And
holy water.
yeah,
Uh, so what was the catalyst for you to finally
it was an
dig?
EVP. It was an audio and an electronic voice phenomenon capture. It was a disembodied voice, but not that of a human being. It was of a horse, of all things, in a barn on this tour. It was captured on an audio tape player, an audio cassette, analog,
Wow.
and it
Did it whinny? Is
it
that
went. You could hear the stomp, but you could definitely make out the horse on this tape, and I didn't hear it at that time. I
wait, now
didn't hear
where was it recorded again?
This was in a real small general store in rural Illinois.
So had it previously been a stable or something,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, it was a general store, and they had kept their horses back there in the back, and that's where I went. I was trying to make a long story short, but that's where I went, was to the back of the barn. Everybody else went to the little general store and started flashing pictures and things, and I went back there by myself and sat in the pitch black in this barn because it was quiet, and I just hit record on my little recorder that I just learned how to use 3 days earlier.
So
And
it was a tour?
it was
Like
a
like
tour.
like a ghost tour. So you were there, it was more of a novelty thing. You were
Sure.
just for the hell of it.
Guys are to have fun. And then I get home and go through the audio, listen to it, and I heard that horse, and it blew me away. I rewound it. It's still there. Everything else was hiss all around it. And then this comes up,
Wow.
um, and that completely blew me away. And from that point on, I was just thrown into this, obsessed with it. Why on earth did I hear that on the tape, but not with my naked ear? To me, that was mind blowing. So I kept going and going and going.
So it just tickled your curiosity.
Hmm. Hmm.
So when you said that, it brought to mind an experience that I had when I was in, I guess, just out of high school, probably, and but it was with video of all things. And I have to ask you, this is really good. I'm curious what your take is on this. So okay, so we had a friend, or I majored in film. I don't know if you knew that. I
Hmm.
think I've told you that. Okay, well, we used to fart around and make movies all the time. And I had neighborhood friends that I grew up with that we made karate movies and things. Well, we had this one friend that was like, he was he was a born again Christian, and he was real preachy, and he was on his high horse one of those times.
Oh yeah.
So nothing on. I mean, he's a good dude and everything, but he was just absolute fodder for comedy. It was ridiculous. He was really ridiculous. Well, then I have my other buddy who was actually very, very good at improv. He never took any classes or anything like that. But man, if it's something that he's invested in, something that he finds funny, he he can really generate some good stuff. So we did this goofy little. We just like put him in front of the camera, a VHS camcorder. This is in the early '90s, and we're in his there's like he's got a garage, and then there's this area like a shed, an enclosed shed behind his garage, and that's where we were at. So we weren't out in the open air. There you could, it was, the door was open to the open air, but it was completely enclosed. So we're in there, and he's, he puts on his hoodie, and he puts on his shades, his Varney style shades, from like 80s style shades.
Yeah.
And then we start playing. He's got this. I don't even, if he was on the show, he could tell us, but it was music from a video game that had a very like kind of sound effects. And so I just start filming them, and what these because we did a couple of these. What was funny about them was that I couldn't help. I would start laughing, and the camera would be shaking the whole time, and I was like desperately trying not to shake, but I couldn't help myself. And so it was especially hard because it would, back then this is a full size camcorder, so it was sitting on my shoulder, and it's just
The big boy.
yeah. So we start filming, and he starts doing his thing where he's pretending to be this guy, and he's going off about, why aren't you coming to my church, and all this stuff. And it's funny, and when we're done, back then I eventually made more, respectable films as far as their quality. But back then, especially with this particular friend, we would just film them and then go watch them. It was fun, right?
Yeah.
So we go in, and we put it in his VCR, and we watch it, and it was this like bird looking thing. Like about halfway through this video, all of a sudden this bird flies through the shot, and it had wings. It had a butt. I would say it was probably like maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet total. Maybe smaller than that, but I just remember it taking up the screen,
Mm-hmm.
but it had eyes, and it flew right through the screen, and it was, neither one of us noticed anything when we were filming, and it was indoors. If there's a bird inside, you're going to notice it, right?
Yeah. Mothman, maybe.
But it spooked me. I'll tell you that. I thought, man, we're making fun of Todd. we're making fun of Todd, and we're playing this music, and we're summoning, without even intentionally doing it, we're summoning the spirits, and now God's punishing us for making fun of Todd. My superstitious mind at the time, but I really did think that it was like, I mean, it didn't do anything. I mean, it didn't cause us any harm or even make itself known, but it sure as heck did show up on that video. So you think it was Mothman?
Something similar to that, maybe.
So
make silent appearances.
So Mothman, what is your definition of Mothman?
Well, that's mostly back east, Mothman.
And maybe he decided to take a flight.
It's a very confusing, elusive creature. It seems to be the Mothman always seems to be at places where tragedies happen, where big things happen.
Mhm.
And they're seen flying overhead or flying around the area.
And that's more humanoid size, right?
It's more humanoid.
I mean, this looked more like the size of a bird. And the other thing, I mean, granted, it was shot on VHS camcorder, so it didn't have the high
Well, it may be,
definition.
and I don't know how you're going to take. I mean, I know me. Those they call them fairies. These little things that fly around. I can't, and I think that's why I'm so clumsy. Is I trip a lot because if you make fun of these fairies, are supposed to trip you and all this fun stuff. I don't know.
Oh, I wasn't making fun of the fairy. I
I
was making fun of Todd.
was because I don't go for them.
So
To this day, I don't go for that.
you don't like fairies?
I don't think that they do what people say they do. I don't think they're magical beings. I think they're mean. If they do exist, I think they're very mean.
So why do you think that?
Because they fairies, the story behind them is you have like a little fairy gift pond or fairy gift things. You give them little gifts and they're supposed to treat you well. Well, I mean, I don't give them gifts. I don't, do things like this. So that is why people say that I'll stumble or trip, or something will happen. My little fairies have turned into almost little gremlins because I don't give them gifts. The fairies that are around me, I don't give them sparkling things that you're supposed to give them.
So when you say when they're around, do you actually discern them?
I actually what?
Discern the presence of them when they're around you?
I have a hard time on the fence about the whole thing. I don't think they exist, but yet I think they exist. So I'm on the fence. There's bits and pieces. I don't think they're like Smurfs running around in the woods.
Todd, Smurf me a candy bar.
But there's something about them. I don't know. There's something about these fairies, these creatures, these woodland creatures. I call them woodland action figures.
Well, what is it? What is it? I mean, what is it that makes you think they do not exist?
Again, they're not tangible. I only believe in ghosts because I saw one. I've never seen a fairy.
Do you know anybody that's claimed that they have seen them?
Yeah. Oh yeah. They catch them a lot on photographs and videos and things, they say. But yet I don't go looking for them either. I'm not researching a fairy. I'm researching a spirit, a disembodied individual.
So that really is a testament to your, continuing skepticism.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even though there's spirit and paranormal
I think
phenomenon.
I think those are played up a lot.
Huh. Yeah. I have a friend that has a shop and she said that she didn't call it a fairy though. I think she called it a troll.
Trolls, elementals is another
that
one.
lives under her porch on her shop. And every now and then they go out and they give it chocolate to keep it away, to keep it from being a jerk. So I don't know. Yeah. So you think it's possible that this was a fairy?
You go telling that story to people out in the public, they'll give you a free jacket and take you away somewhere. I mean, you got to be careful on who you talk to it with about that.
Yeah, well, that's true. That is true. But I've seen ghosts with my own eyes too, and so so yeah, it does. That really is a commentary on. I mean, that's we humans. I mean, that's pretty natural to be skeptical of something that you haven't experienced for yourself. You have to take it strictly on faith.
Yeah.
Which, just going into the whole spiritual versus religious, conversation, for somebody that's raised in a religious, family, and where especially when the belief system is, kind of out there,
Oh,
it's where you're asked to take all this on faith. You don't actually have any experiential, um, you know, uh, contact or experiences with these concepts, but
right.
you're still asked to take it out on faith. And I know for me personally, I could never do that. I tried, I wanted to, because there was a lot of beauty that came with some of these belief systems, but I didn't finally start to fully believe until I had my own experiences. I could say, no, I've experienced this. I know it's real. So
Absolutely.
it sounds like you're in the same boat as me, where you're, you know,
I still have some
so-
skepticism back there. There's certain parts of, and to me, everything is paranormal. Everything, metaphysical, everything is paranormal. Everything is not of the norm. It's not of
sure.
what society wants. So,
I get, yeah, it's paranormal and if you're comparing it to societal standards, right?
mhm.
But it's not. The reality is it's not. It's just normal. It's not paranormal,
And I
right?
believe like what you do, for example, I'll talk about your healing and how that some people say, oh, that's paranormal. That's placebo. That's
Mhm.
it's popperkosh. No, it's not. It's just not.
No,
I don't know how it's not,
yeah,
but all I know for a fact, especially yours, is that it's not. It is genuine. It is effective. It works.
but until you experience that, then
Bingo.
I mean, the idea that you're in Illinois and I'm in Florida and I can heal you effectively from here sounds crazy.
Yeah.
I, for those of you out here that are listening to us that are saying that, I don't blame you. I
Mhm.
really don't blame you. But the reality is that it is real.
It is.
And and if you think of it in terms of, you have a physical plane and then you have a spiritual plane, we only discern a very small amount of what's actually going on around us, because that's what our senses can detect. It
Mhm.
doesn't, but it's like, like dogs. Just let's think of it in this analogy. A dog can hear octaves and frequencies that humans will never be able to even become close to hearing. Those sounds are real. We don't hear them,
Yeah.
but they do, because of what they're able to perceive,
Mhm.
just because of their physical properties, their attributes. Well, it's just, so when you go into if you compare physical versus spiritual, there's all kinds of phenomenon, energy, frequency. I send you energy and you're getting it faster than the speed of light,
It's
because
incredible.
and it is possible. If you think about it in terms of, like, it's a lot easier when you're thinking of things in more conventional, you know, Western terms, to accept the idea that you could do energy healing by placing your hands on somebody, right? But the reality is that healing that you're doing for them, that energy isn't coming from me, from you, from the practitioner. That's being channeled through you. And so if you think of that reality, because that is the reality,
Mhm.
I can't. I'm not superhuman. I can't just heal somebody, but I can channel energy that can.
Mhm.
Well, if I can channel it through me to you directly through touch, why couldn't I channel spiritual energy from a distance? It's coming from a distance, a quote unquote distance. The reality is it's right there.
Yep.
But if I can channel it right now and send it into your body, why couldn't I do the same thing from a distance? It's still coming from spirit.
Same difference.
It actually makes a lot of sense, but
Mhm.
it's still very difficult to wrap your brain around, because it's, you
It's
know,
tricky.
it's tricky.
It's tricky in how it works. It's something of the non-physical or becoming physical, becoming reality. Something of the non-reality becoming a reality in your body. You have pain. That is a reality. When you do this, it relieves that pain. Boom.
Mhm.
You know,
And
it's
it has lasting benefits too. It doesn't just take the pain away for a minute. Whatever ailment you had, like with your wrist and your arm, your
my
hand
Crohn's.
and
My
your Crohn's.
Crohn's is the biggest. It's still under control. I mean, these are things that are long lasting, and I like that.
Yeah.
And those are things I'm going to continue doing.
As do I. No, yeah, but the thing is, you're receptive, you're open to it.
I'm like a
You know,
sponge.
you yourself are somebody that's caring and giving, and you vibrate on that frequency yourself. So I think that, and not that it helps everybody, if they're
Mhm.
open to it, but you kind of roll in that frequency all the time, from what I could, or most of the time. And I
I
think,
enjoy it.
I think that's part of why you're such why you, as a healer, like, as I was saying earlier, it's not just the practitioner, it's the client that's
Yeah.
doing the healing. It's as a partnership. That's why you get this stuff so effectively. Um, so, well, I guess that,
Wow.
um,
Looky
I,
there.
I don't know. Well, we have to definitely, we'll have to figure out the schedule and stuff.
Oh,
But
sure.
well, I'll be having Todd back on my show again, have a more dedicated show to his book, especially after I actually get the pleasure of reading it. And Mark Adams, he's a great guy, and he's got a really fascinating healing technique. He's a brilliant guy. So we're gonna reschedule his show. He'll be on again. Please tune in when that does come about, because you won't regret it. It's definitely worth hearing what happened to Pepper and to me, and I'm sure he'll be talking about other cases that he's had with his healing technique. So I hope you'll tune in later, but that'll be forthcoming next week. Todd Wilcox will be on the show. Todd, he was on the debut show last week, and he has a whole other energy healing modality that is really, really cool, and very effective. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to having him on the show. So I hope you'll tune in next week. But Todd, thank you so much for coming in and rescuing the show tonight.
My pleasure.
I,
Anytime.
I enjoyed chatting with you, and this is kind of what it's like when we just talk on the phone, right?
It's always
So
fun.
it's good. People get to kind of tune in and check it out. So
Yeah, it's never a dull moment.
never a dull moment. So thank you again. I really, really appreciate it. And thanks to the audience. I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Thank you again to Lana in Plainfield, Illinois, who actually commented on the show tonight. Hopefully there were more people out there that just didn't comment, but it's okay. It's a new show. I realize that it's going to take some time for us to build up an audience. But for those of you dedicated people that have actually taken the time and interest to tune in, we love you. And we'll see you next week.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.